Hello, everyone. My name is Wade DeWalby, or I should say Wade Warner. We'll be talking about how does a rocket fly. Now, I'm not going to talk about the combustion engine and all that stuff. I'm going to be talking about the computer telemetry and how this the software and how it actually works. Now, it will be a little bit complicated, but I'm going to make it as simple as I can make it. Let's go back in 1940 something when Wernher von Braun and his colleagues made a rocket called the V2 rocket. Now, this was where the Nazis were using this missile that was used for destroying allies. And it was actually the first missile that was launched vertically. So this rocket was a rocket. If you've seen it before, you probably would have seen it looks like a standard rocket. I meant like not a cartoon rocket, but it's actually has everything. Now, what it had, there's also a playlist. No, never mind. There is some videos that do have detail about the V2 rocket. So I probably won't go through a little bit about it, but I'm going to give you some, I should say, things. The V2 rocket has a guidance system, and what it does, it uses a gyroscope. Now, I don't have a gyroscope around here, so I can't simulate what it does. But what it does, it spins around using electricity, using a battery power on the warhead. It's on the top, and it rotates. It doesn't look like it's rotating, but somehow it rotates. Then if you turn it like a gyroscope, you can balance it while the rotation body is keeping it up. Now, it doesn't help the spacecraft, but it does tell where it's actually pointing at, which means there is a degree panel to the computer. So when you tilt it, it goes up, but how much it tilts, how much coverage you have. So that means it tells itself where to go. So the gyroscope, it basically guides the rocket. The gimbal engine keeps it in place while the wings and stuff. And then once it runs out of fuel, it will guide itself down and then destroy, allies. That's what it works. Now, that's the basic principles of a rocket. We're not going to go to Rocket Goddard because he used a pendulum thing, which if you had taken physics class, you probably would have laughed his face. You probably didn't because it's kind of boring. I never took it, but I do know a lot of things. So, yeah, you can get through it by knowing physics, but still, I digress. So, let's go to a next generation. I do have a little bit of fuzzy information about this between here, but it's basically, I think, the same thing they used. I'm not clearly sure. I think Scott Manley should know, but he actually has more resources than I do. But so how does a rocket fly? Well, like I explained, that's what it used. Now, let's go to. There is also a video that was from Smarter Every Day, and he actually demonstrated the Saturn V rocket or Saturn V rocket. The third stage has all the computer components. Guidance system, coolant system. Yeah, go look it up. You can find the video and you can learn more. I'm not going to go deeply to it, but I'm going to give you the computer. So the computer's on the. So how big? No. What is a guidance system and everything to need to fly a rocket? Now, let's go to computerism. To fly a rocket, you must have, I'm not like a genius type guy, but I do know about the basics of computering, like baby steps, I should say. I'm still way behind. I don't even have a college degree at all. My dad would probably know, but he'll just give up automatically. He'll just give up. He'll probably think that he doesn't know about it, but he does know computering. So let's say you want to make a rocket. Now, obviously, United States Air Force probably won't like you building a rocket with bargain parts. But you have probably launched a rocket that used different types of fuels instead of kerosene or liquid oxygen, because if you're in school, they don't use that. It's just too dangerous. Instead, you use soda bottles or something like that, or air pressure, which the higher you go, the more air pressure. I'm not sure. I'm not like a professional physics person, so bear with me. So if you really want to build a rocket, here's what you need to know. Building a rocket by taking it into an orbit, by not using it as a weapon like I demonstrated, which that was back in the day. I'm not promoting terrorism, because that wasn't terrorism. That was actually war. See, there's between two. I can't believe I'm doing this. So I digress again. The V2 rocket was used for a long time back in the 50s. Then NASA came around and, I think it was the 40s or 50s, somewhere around there. I don't have information on my screen, so I have no idea what I'm just looking at my desktop so light can reflect to my face. Really clever, isn't it? No, it's not. I have no idea. So first you need, now it depends on your fuel. It is very complicated. So if you have no experience and you're just going to act like Robert Goddard, you're going to fail pretty much. So don't make the rocket engine on the top. Don't even do it. I know that don't do it. Don't even think about doing it. Instead, use the traditional way, using the engine on the bottom, which is the center of mass. That is all right, let's just say this. Let's say you won the lottery, okay? And you really want to put a man on the moon. All right, I think you need more than million, like maybe $2 million. All right, you won $2 million. That's not a lot. It is a lot, but a lot of people, in a sense, it's a lot. So yeah, if you do, there are some complications. You have a lot of money, which you're going to have to keep it and make sure you have inventory, which means if you just spend it on because look, there is no, you could build your own rocket, but why don't you just use other rockets that actually have, which I think that money right there should be enough to actually put a little satellite on the Electron rocket from Rocket Lab. I'm guessing. I don't know how much they pay for the prices. I'm not a businessman, but I'm pretty sure it is cheaper than using the Falcon Heavy or Falcon 9, or at least the SpaceX rockets, because I think they might be more expensive. It might be more cheaper once they recover the booster or the engine, the booster, the first stage of the Electron rocket. So it might be more cheaper because they'll use the same thing, which will, it is cheap because it is all of its 3D, the engines are 3D printed, I think. And so it is actually very easy. There's people that are there just to assemble it. But yeah, a lot of the stuff is automated, so it's probably very cheap. A lot of the money is that spent to the coworkers. All it is just robots. Well, it's not like assembly line. It's, everyday astronaut actually visited there one time. And he, was talking, and he even talked to that man twice. That's incredible for a YouTuber. That is incredible. I mean, seriously, you're talking to the CEO of Rocket Lab. And I think he was also talking to Elon Musk. Yeah, he is. I thought he was not going to be good. So I'm like, whatever. But I did subscribe because, that's incredible. No, yeah, but back to how to actually launch a rocket. Yeah, if you have $2 million, all you need, I think you don't need $2 million. I think you need, if you really want to go put a man on the moon, no. You have to have regulations. And it would just be like, what? Now, building a capsule. All right, let's just say you have the mind of basic orbiting. You put a man up there. If you eventually build a rocket to get to the moon, First of all, let's just demonstrate it. You're dead. What happened? Well, you forgot a ton of things once you launched the rocket. Surely you spent a lot of money on the rocket fuel and a lot of the, let's just say liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen, which, using a throttleable engine. And then put yourself on the rocket into a capsule looking thing. Now, a capsule needs to have a lot of things to satisfy a human. Remember, waste. The more days you go, 4 days is a long time. So if you have no bathroom, you're going to pee on yourself. Yeah, that's not good. That's why they had that. But eventually you're going to have to succumb this. But let's just say you're like freaking going to go. You're going to have a lot of problems. Once you're in orbit, you're going to have 0G and you have no experience at all. And all you did was just watching YouTube videos of how, everything works, not knowing what the dangers are. Because, you're saying to yourself, oh, JFK said not because it's easy, but because it's hard. No, don't. And then eventually you'll probably be like, oh no, what have I done? Yeah. You forgot the heat shield, okay? So you forgot a heat shield, and people have been asking you should build like a ablator, like a material like wood. Wait, not wood. Something like quark. Like quark, like from a bottle, not quarks from protons or neutrons. No. Yeah. By the way, that's actually a ablator. So using that, which the Chinese or Japanese done that. I think it was Chinese. They use using a wood ablative shield. So yeah, you can do that. But let's just say you have a capsule that's made out of stainless steel. Does that sound familiar? Okay, let's just say it's pressurized, so you know that it's a vacuum out there. But what about your spacesuit? Well, you could just buy a spacesuit. But remember, there's a lot of regulations. It's going to be impossible. Because once you buy stuff, eventually the FBI or something like that will find you, and they'll kind of get concerned of what are you doing? Like, are you ridiculous? Like, yeah, I am. Well, I'll give you one thing, man, but seriously, you're going to die, to be honest with you. No, you're lying. So yeah, you probably die because eventually, if you can't get to orbit that same velocity you took, you're dead. Or just be clumps of fire. By the way, that sounds familiar. Okay, off subject here. I know this is a bit about computing, about how to fly a rocket, but let me just go back to movies and how they actually, movies that really don't want to have people like me that knows about rocket science, but I can, because I can do it. Now, first of all, I did a live stream about that. It was called something. It was about the movie Rampage in 2018. So what I was saying right in the beginning of the movie, it talks about 2010 or something and doing this, and then the station, I call it fake ISS. Because, yeah, they tried, but I know it's not because those modules in there. But they did good inside modules. I'm surprised at how much detail they did to look almost exact to the International Space Station. So a lot of people even notice this. How can even those cartridges survive the reentry? Well, remember, in the scene, it was already deorbiting, which obviously, from what? Was it, you can't, okay, what I hate is when you have a station, it malfunctions, and then it just falls on the ground. It literally just falls straight down. There's a movie called Midnight Special on Netflix. And yeah, well, I was like, how could you mind control a satellite and then bring it down to the Earth using heat? The only way to deorbit a satellite is you have to use that's not like anything else. By the way, that movie's weird at the end. So it is interesting, but then it just, it's really weird at the end. Yeah, it's a weird title, to be honest with you. But yeah. But yeah, obviously, not capsule, but obviously, there are a lot of interesting things. They were just looking at the kaijus. I call them kaijus because why not? Because, monster. Kaiju is a big monster, so I'm calling that. But let's go back to realism. We're not going to talk about giant, let's just go back to realism. I'll probably talk about, I think I should talk about how big can you get and see if you could die, because there is an atmosphere. I call it like a thing, but I'll probably talk about next streams maybe. But let's go back to the computer. So Savvy had a computer. What am I even doing? Okay, so yeah, it flies using a computer that tells it where it's at. But here's the problem. Once you're in orbit, the computer has a different approach. There is a problem. I think the gyroscopes, I don't think it would actually work. Maybe, I'm not sure. But instead, you can also, where are you should say. So the computer will try to look at stars, which are star trackers. I don't know much about them, but then it will actually tell where it's at, and automatically. Usually, so once you have everything okay, so the computer is artificial intelligence, basically, until you send a signal to it to direct it wherever you need to. So the objective is going to the moon. You need to have, you need to have a lot of steps. You are in orbit, all right? So you're in low Earth orbit. Now, the moon is going to be not in your view, because the moon actually orbits. So I think it should be not directly, the moon should not be facing this way because of orbit mechanics. What you need to do is you need to activate your engine when the moon, I believe, is in the other side of the Earth. So when you burn, your orbit will raise. But remember time, that moon is going to move eventually. So once you burn this way, okay, hang on. Get the math in. So if you, I'm confused. I'm already confused. So if you burn, okay, you bring your orbit this way. All right. Okay, that's the other way. No, you go the other way because of, well, I'm actually confusing myself. Okay, so the moon moves this way. So what you need to do, you're in orbit like this. And what you need to do is have the moon like right here, then do your burn. And then your orbit is going to get bigger, and then wait for 4 days. That's the minimum. And the moon will actually move like this. And then eventually you will intercept to there. But it has to be like somewhere around here so you can have enough time to merge. Then you have an encounter. That sounds complicated, but that is it. But you have to be careful because you could be on the moon, this moon side. This is, by the way, 2D. So yeah. This moon side or this side. So to prevent you to going to the moon, if you play Kerbal, you probably know what to do. Know what to do. So you burn this way. I think you go to the other way. Now in a 3D sense, you do the same thing, but you burn this way. So the computer does it possibly by itself. But because it's very close to Earth, you can command it when you need to. It just needs telemetry data, such as sonar-like thing. That's the cool thing. So once it's preparing for landing, it will turn on its telemetry, beaming down to the saying how far you're up to the surface. So it activates its engine and it goes down, 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 slow, slow, and then boom. Now without telemetry, this is what happens. Boom, you crash. That happens a lot. It seems like. So you have to have, I'm guessing, 2 telemetry, 1 backup, 1, primary, just to make sure you land, because it seems like a lot. I feel like it's, so yeah, telemetric data is very, 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 very interesting looking, because you have to have 0 vertical speed, which means you have to make sure, because you're in orbit, which means you have to burn this way. And you will eventually just go like this, and then use your RCS thrusters to slow down, and then you can touch down. That's the Apollo landing style, the lunar lander style. So that's how they do it. They orbit themselves, and then they using, actually, it's a computer on there that does the work, but in case of things go bad, you can do manual control, which that's what they did on Apollo 11 because something was wrong, I think. And they had to do a manual landing. So there is a computer on there, which was called the main computer. There was also backup. But yeah, there was the computer that did commands, and that's what it did. It did tell, but it was so big. The computer was so compact. It was just like, it's incredible how the technology that was just in just a few years. Now let's go to modern technology, how to fly a rocket. I'm not clearly sure, but I think what you need is actually the telemetry, I should say the gyroscope is actually about like a disc or something like that. It's like a memory card. By the way, the smallest ever satellite was actually palm. I think it was like about this size. I think it was a palm of your hand. It was like it's like a motherboard almost type thing, but it had everything to do experiments. They were launched on the ISS and they were in clusters. But obviously they didn't last that long because I believe they were just bombarded with heat. So you need a lot of stuff for your satellite. You need to have a radiator, power, a solar panel, transmission, which means you need hurt my big toe. You need to have a transmitter, like an antenna, which has to be pretty big if you're going to large distances. But for a human capsule, well, I'm not going to go through that because, All right, let's go to the conclusion. How to actually fly a rocket? Look, it took me a while to give you an idea how complicated it is to fly a rocket. So yeah, flying a rocket, it's really complicated. But now I think today might be a bit more simpler but to be honest with you, it is complicated if you never heard of a rocket. That'd be retarded almost. My big toe kind of hurts. All right, so obviously there was nothing that I talked about because I think a lot of the things, I just wanted to have you guys to explore some of the things that I wanted to show you guys, but it seemed like that it was half and half. It was okay, but I don't know what I'm talking about. But if you have any questions, put them in the comments below and I will answer them. Anything about rockets, but if it's something about like I'll try, but I'll look some resources to make sure that I'm telling the truth. Or you could do it to yourself. You can look, but I mean, I'll be happy to answer your questions. So I'm going to just do something. I'm gonna go play some games, maybe, but I don't know. Oh, that's creepy. Okay, never mind. Time. Okay. So I'll see you guys in the next live stream. See ya.